So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me to look at ways to reduce your recruitment costs, particularly going into 2023. We're all going to be looking at costs and ways to reduce them. And there are some really easy ways to reduce the cost that you're spending on recruitment, which should make a real difference to you. So let me start off by sharing my screen. Let me just pull up the presentation. Right. Right. So I've divided the presentation into two parts, really. What are your recruitment costs and how can you reduce these? And then the second part, which won't be recorded, will be the question and answer session as well. So first of all, what do you think makes up your recruitment costs? In the old days, people used to talk about there being lots of different costs to recruitment, and it is worth considering these. So I just wanted to put some of these up on the whiteboard. Right, so I'm just going to type these up. So and the number one thing that that recruitment costs are a loss in productivity. If you think about taking somebody out of the business, that work is not being done, and therefore there is a direct cost in terms of that. There are other costs as well. One of the big ones that often companies don't can't type and talk at the same time, don't take into consideration at all, is management time, and this is for things like interviews, CV sifting, recruitment meetings. There's a whole raft of things. There's a cost in terms of your reputation to your customers. If you're not being able to deliver or the service is suffering, then there can be a direct cost, and obviously the longer this goes on, the more damage can occur to your reputation. And you've got your agency fees if you're using recruitment agencies, so typically these are 15% of somebody's salary, so they're not insignificant at all, and it's the least you should understand. And then I can't type now. It's not going to let me. And then there are other things as well, such as time to hire. The longer it takes to hire, the longer somebody's out of the business. And then you've got things like advertising costs as well. If you're advertising on a board, then you've got a cost involved with that. So there are lots of things that add up to make your recruitment fees, but there's some really simple ways to reduce these as well. Let me come out of this because I don't feel the whiteboard's been terribly successful. Right, let me go back to the presentation. Right, taking back to the beginning. Right. Okay, so as I sort of alluded in the previous bit, recruitment agency costs, they can be an absolutely huge a part of your budget, depending on your turnover. Typically agencies will charge you 15% of somebody's take-on fee, and most agencies work on what's known as contingency-based recruitment, so they understand that they've got your vacancy, but that other people have got your vacancy as well. And so it can be a bit of a bun fight. One of the things I would say, and I think is really common within the SME market, is owner-managed businesses like to negotiate and want to negotiate fees down. Don't do it. If you negotiate down, and so you're only paying, say, 12% compared to 15%, you're not going to see the best candidates. The best candidates will go to other companies that are prepared to pay that 15%. So be really wary about doing that. If you do want to negotiate, think about what is in it for the agency. So you might want to say that they can have it on a what's called a retained or an exclusive basis for the first 2 or 3 weeks, so that they know that they're not in competition with anybody else. But I would really caution against doing it, because you won't get the best service for that. To work with an agency that you know, like and trust, and offer that a retained contract, is what all agencies really want. And actually they don't really tend to sell it, because they're so busy with the contingency work. But actually it would certainly be worth looking at your providers and asking whether that would be something that they would consider, and how that looks for both of you. But make sure it's also a win for them, otherwise it just won't be a win for you. And the important thing to remember about recruitment is the end goal is to have somebody working for you, and not to spend an awful lot of time costing you nothing but not getting you anywhere either. So that's the first thing in terms of looking at reductions. So, oh, no, I did that. Hang on, I need to go back. It's too quick with the click. That's the one I want to go to, right? Okay. So the other thing to look at is to reduce your time to hire. And this is something that a lot of companies don't focus on at all. So obviously the less time you spend in the recruitment process, the less costs it's going to incur for your business. And it's really worth thinking about this. And what I always say to our clients is start with the end in mind. So start where you want that person to join the company, and work backwards. So you've got your notice period, you've got your final stage interview before that, advertising, etc. And look at how you can reduce the time, this time period. Things like notice periods are often non-negotiable, but and they tend to be kind of fairly similar for similar type of roles. But make sure you build that in first of all. But look at kind of the distance between your first and second interviews, for example. Candidates are moving really quickly at the moment. Don't hold on to the process or think, well, I haven't got time this week, I'll interview next week. Look and book the time out. It will just make such a difference in terms of the cost of recruitment, in terms of losing candidates. So the third thing is to look at searching CV databases yourself. So CV Library, Total Jobs, Indeed, they make money in 2 ways. The first is by advertising, and you buy adverts and you put your advert out there. The second side, which isn't promoted so much to companies, but is there and is still a big income stream for them, is they all have their own CV library where candidates can upload CVs. You can then go into them, access them and see who's there and approach people directly. It's what your agencies are doing. It's not hard work. It is time consuming, but if you've got somebody who's prepared to do that, it's really worth doing. And you can buy access to these databases for a week or a month, or for a certain number of downloads. So for example, if it's a role that you think is relatively easy to fill, half an hour spent on a CV database could be all the recruitment costs that you're going to need to spend. So, and LinkedIn has the same. So the LinkedIn Recruiter license, which is the sort of standard headhunting tool, is much more expensive. However, if you've got LinkedIn Premium, then you're able to approach people directly. And, certainly if you're looking for people who are specific to your industry or your location, you can be quite clever in terms of the way you search there to find candidates and approach them directly. And you know what? A candidate loves a direct approach that's not from an agency. If it's coming direct from the company, you'll get far better engagement. Point 4 is reduce your interview time. So because the candidate market is so busy at the moment, and candidates have lots of job offers that they can choose from, they don't want complicated recruitment processes, and they will fall out of your recruitment process if you're asking too much of them. So personally, I don't think you should make your process less robust. I think you should just be clever in terms of how you look at your time spent with candidates. So it might be that you can do some of your interviews by telephone. This has become really popular in terms of the first stage interview. We do all of our first stage interviews by phone. Obviously, it means that if somebody doesn't show up, you're not sat in a room waiting for them. You know, you've still got that time within the business. You can look at bringing elements together. So rather than perhaps having them for a first and a second stage, and kind of all the preparation time that goes with that, you can be much more astute really and get them in for one process, but do both parts within that process. I think it's really important to remember that you know, as a recruiting manager, you want to spend your time with the best candidates. Don't spend your time with those who are not suitable for the position at all. So also think about ways you can automate the process, sifting candidates out, getting rid of candidates and rejecting them without it, you know, sort of taking up an awful lot of your time. Right. And then the final thing is to look at an employee referral scheme. So this is where you ask your current employees whether they know of anybody who will be suitable for the jobs that you've got. Particularly looking at Generation Z, which is the new generation coming into the workforce at the moment, they are really bought into the idea of referrals. You know, they want to read reviews about companies. It's really important to them, and therefore the younger generation are going to be much more bought into this as an idea in terms of using an employee referral scheme. They can be really successful, but they do need continual promotion. I don't know why, but people internally think if it's not being talked about, then the scheme must have stopped. The important elements with it really are, it needs to be, you know, give them something that they want, whether it's cash or vouchers. And I would give them something when the employee first starts, and then at the end of their probationary period as well. It's really common to lose people during the probationary period, and therefore if you've got another member of staff who's motivated to keep that person within the organisation, that's not a bad thing. So I would split a cash payment into two parts, one when the person starts and one at the end of the 3-month period. It should be a meaningful amount. And if you think about kind of recruitment fees, as long as it's less than that, you're going to save some money. So, you know, if you're looking at a £40,000 salary, for example, that would be £6,000 recruitment fee. If you paid as a referral fee for that £3,000, you know, you've halved your recruitment costs, and that's a really meaningful amount of money. And those sort of people, if they can make that sort of money, will keep referring if they know the right sort of level of people. So that's how I would look at it, is half the recruitment fee and offer that as well. Okay, so that's 5 tips that I would suggest in terms of looking at how to reduce your recruitment fees. So look at whether you need to be working with agencies and how you do that. Look at reducing the cost reducing your time to hire and the costs that are involved with that. Look at searching CV databases and looking for candidates yourself. Reduce the time that you spend on the recruitment process, particularly the interview time, and look at introducing a referral scheme. So thank you very much. Have you got any questions? Just come out of that. Thank you.